Hey there, it is Tom Sawyer here on behalf of Indestructible Productions with yet another Scum build video. Now, we're reaching the end. It's time to start assembling things nicely, putting on the hardware and stuff like that. This is now the last video that I actually filmed at Crimson Guitars. This is my last day working there. Well, last day at the workshop anyways. And yeah. So I'm not going to be doing the electronics because the pickups are still waiting in Finland at this point. So I'm just going to finish up the build over there, do the electronics and stuff like that on that end. Or, well, more I mean, that is what I did, not that is what I'm going to do. You get what I mean. Anywho, so main things first, because of the two-pneumatic bridge, I need to put the ground wire in underneath the bridge pole. And in order to do that, I just drilled a small hole connecting the bridge pin hole to the pickup cavity. And then I just put in a wire at an angle and hammered in that bridge pin by using a rubber mallet and a block so that I don't damage the top whatsoever. Same sort of process in putting in the string ferrules. Very simple process. Just be very careful that you don't dent your guitar. So have a piece of wood or a block of wood or something like that to kind of hammer them in, or a soft rubber mallet. Either way, just be careful. Yeah. If you've done your drilling properly, you shouldn't have any issues with that. Now, placing the jack socket plate, just using a nice little bradawl to mark out where I want to drill those screw holes. And yeah, always make sure that you're not putting a finished guitar on top of anything that might cause a dent or a scratch in your finish, because that would suck quite a bit. And yeah, fairly straightforward, just drilling up the holes and screwing up the plate. Now, when I put the screws in, especially when I put smaller screws in, I use wax. Or where I put the screws in a little bit of wax, because that helps them go in a little bit better, so that I'm not putting too much strain and possibly breaking the screw into the body. This has happened in the past when I didn't really know what I was doing and I was just trying to, well, put the screws in a guitar and break off the screws, and quite frankly screwing everything up. Sorry for the lame pun. Wow, yeah, that was bad. Anywho, moving onwards. With the jack socket plate in place, I'm just going to put in the switch and the pots. Having made sure that the holes I've drilled are big enough to fit these pots, this is quite a simple task to do. And just assembling things. I could have made a wiring loom out of these, but in all honesty, I'd just much rather do all the electronics in one go instead of doing half now and then half later. So I'm just putting it all nicely together at this point. Then trying to find an appropriate screwdriver so that I can actually attach my knobs. They didn't have a screwdriver, but I have this very small chisel with a very dull edge to it, so I'm just using that because it is the right shape. And I'm making sure that my pots are completely at full, so at 10, and then placing the screws away from the player in the same direction. So that from a playing point of view, you don't really see those screws at all. There you go, just making sure that they're nicely in place and they stay in place. Now the moment of truth. Will the two pneumatics stay in place or not? Oh, or not. I thought I might have done that. But yeah, it's one of those things, always putting in holes for two pneumatics. You're always scared that whenever you actually put it together, that is your bridge actually going to stay in place or not. But yeah, that comes in a bit. Once again, just using the wax technique again to put in these small screws, just to make sure that they don't break apart or anything like that. Then the tuners. So the main thing to think about when putting in tuners, a 6-in line is very straightforward. All you need to do really is just make sure that they're in line and well, straight in line, so they're not wonky all over the place. And the best way to do that is to use a straight edge or a ruler that you know has a straight edge to it. Like so. So I'm just using the ruler up against the first and the last tuner and just trying to make sure that everything is in fact in line according to those two. If you have a 3 and 3 sided headstock, there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. You can have them in a line, you can have them staggered, and or going along with the shape of the headstock, whichever you think looks the best. But ideally, you'd want them perpendicular to the neck. That is the most common way of doing it, at least. And again, using the bradawl just to mark out where I'm going to drill the holes for the screws. Now, this was always a step that I found somewhat terrifying when I first started off, but you don't need to drill the holes too deep, so you have absolutely no worries of going straight through the headstock. And if you're skeptical about that, have your finger on the other side of the headstock so that you're kind of drilling toward it. That gives you a very good guideline on if you're going too deep very quickly. And yes, if you're going way too deep, then you will notice by the time that you actually drill into your finger. So, you know, if you do try that, be careful. Don't drill into your finger. That's not good. And again, repeating the same methodology, then with all the smaller screws. Final pieces on the tuners, so the washers and so on. If you have a socket wrench, this would be an ideal time to use that. I'm just using a normal wrench here, spanner. think at some point I asked Tom whether he has a more appropriate tool for the job, because mine really isn't all that good. And there we go. I had the right kind of tool for the job all along. I just didn't realize it. And then once those are in place, it is a good time to screw in your truss rod cover. Of course, making sure that your neck actually is straight at this point, so you don't have to take the truss rod cover off and then have to re-straighten the neck and so on and so forth. Which would most definitely be a faff. Now as for the strap buttons, I got these small pieces of leather that I punched out, and to make them, well, to make the screws go in a little bit easier, I first cut a X with a scalpel blade right in the middle, and that helps you get the screw all the way through. And then, yes, you can use a screwdriver to kind of help push it the rest of the way. Just assembling a guitar is always nice and therapeutic in my opinion, and a very straightforward process. There are a few things that, you know, make life easier, like the wax for example, but in most cases it is very straightforward. If your screws are not going in and you're having to kind of like force it, I think you might need a better pilot hole. So just make sure that all the pilot holes that you do drill are good enough. Then it's time to string this baby up. Now I'm just putting in momentary, that was a weird way of saying it. I'm just putting in momentary strings, because if I'm not mistaken, this did end up having like 13s on it, and these are 10s. Not going to be doing a full setup either. I'm just going to make sure that everything's nicely tensioned up and roughly good for me to continue onwards. A little bit of wiggling about with Tune-o-matic. But there we are, sitting nicely. Yeah, I'm not going to do a full setup yet because I still have all the electronics to do, but just getting it there close enough at this point. Stretching out the strings, making sure that my action is pretty much where I want it to be. Yeah, there's not really too much to it. But hey, this is reaching the end of, and yeah, I want to keep on making sure that I am actually nice and, or that the neck is actually nice and straight and nice and flat. So there's no issues there. The tension is not doing anything to that. Anywho, like I was saying before I rudely interrupted myself with another thought, this video is about to wrap up, and just for the last sort of segment, I'm just gonna be quiet, and you're gonna see the very last thing that I basically had on camera from my stay at Crimson Guitars, which is pretty cool. I mean, there's nothing in particular about it, just thought it would be fun. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this very tangent-oriented video, and I will see you guys next week, where I finish up this guitar back home in Finland. with all the electronics and actually, well, yeah, finishing it up. And then it's onwards and upwards onto other things. All right, enjoy. Bye-bye.
Was the red one?
Yeah.
I was just cut the blue off.
Yeah, we did it.
It's gonna have much thicker strings than this stuff.
They 10.
Yeah. It's gonna have like 13s on his.
So we'll go to the back. Finley